there. Today we will be discussing the HealthRoadmap application. HealthRoadmap is my iteration of Professor Choi's Angry Birds iOS app. Let's open the app and take a look. HealthRoadmap is an iOS application which shows a list of health providers near the user, which provide reproductive healthcare services. Users can click on individual health locations to see a detailed view, which provides information on the location, such as the location's address, distance from the user, and whether or not the location is currently open. Users can also use the search bar here at the top to filter which locations they would like to see. For my final project, I wanted to add functionality to this app so that users could favorite their preferred locations and subsequently view only their favorite locations. Let's dive into the code and see how this works. My first step was to go into the main.storyboard and add a UI button to the location cell called Fave Button. I then added some constraints to the button to ensure that it shows up on different size devices and orientations. I also chose to give my button a heart image. Let's zoom in here, to indicate to users what the button's purpose is. Next, it was time to connect the heart button to the code. First, I needed to add an attribute to the health location class, isFavorite, which is a Boolean type. IsFavorite indicates whether or not a user has favorited the location. I set the default to false. I also added a user favorited function, which is later called when a user taps the heart button. This function changes the value of isFavorite to the opposite of its previous value. Next, I dove into the location cell file in order to connect the UI button to the code. I did so here using an IB outlet, and I called the button Fave Button. Within the location variable, I added some conditional statements to determine whether or not the button should appear to be filled or unfilled based on the value of healthLocation.isFavorite. That's happening right here. I then added a target action to the Fave button called Handle Mark as Favorite. Handle Mark as Favorite stores the previous value of healthLocation.isFavorite and calls the user favorited function that we previously saw in the health location file. Next, Handle Mark as Favorite changes the fill type of the button accordingly. We can see down here that I wrote two functions, fill heart button and unfill heart button, which just change the image of the button based off of our conditionals that we just saw. Finally, I wanted to add functionality so that the user can filter and see only their favorite locations. To do so, I edited the health list view controller. We can see here in the init search controller function that I added the option favorites to the scope button titles. I also updated the filter for search text and scope button function to filter based off of the healthLocation.isFavorite value here. And that's about it. It's pretty simple. We can see that each of our cells on our table has this heart button, which a user can select. And upon selection, it either fills or unfills the button and changes the is favorited value on the health location. And then a user can subsequently filter and only see their favorited locations. Thanks for watching.